Good afternoon, Abbotsford residents. I'm Mr. Pelican, running for mayor. The first thing I'm going to do as your mayor is get the RCMP in Abbotsford. We need help, and we need help bad, and we need the best to stop the threats, to stop Abbotsford police from smashing my cameras and phone. I believe, in my opinion, Henry ordered them as I unveiled what Darren Brown showed me, Henry's son, the establishment that was ripping off taxpayers and making money. Yesterday I did a video on Archway, and I've been on Archway Community Services. Abbotsford residents, some politicians asked me to elaborate a little more. Today I'm in George Ferguson Way here. Right by the old MLA's office is Archway Community Services, another building. I want to first take you back. When Justin Trudeau was here, and he made it clear that the flood money was going to go to the Red Cross and it wasn't going to Archway or Community Taj or anywhere. He was stripping it because he already knew that they were filling their portfolio. So you asked me to elaborate. So Community Taj is another non-profit organization. So you want me to tell you how it happened. Rob Santiago sent a bunch of people over there to slowly penetrate the board. After a couple of years, they get in, they vote themselves on the board. Once they control the board, they vote all the old people off the board, which is in insider trading. They know they're setting it up to steal and take the money and get the services. And then once the new board came in, it appointed Rob Santiago's wife as the CEO. I made it clear that not only was Archway Rob Santiago behind it, the Mayor Henry Braun's son was informing me if this was taking place. Henry Braun's son was showing me that Archway hired underwriters and writers to make grants, and all day long they sit here for grants. Here's another facility of Archways on Abbotsford taxpayers. They rent this building. I wonder who owns it. Maybe Henry Brown owns it. We got to find who owns it, and Archway owns it. I made it clear that Archway owns 30 to 40 million, maybe more, in their back pockets of Abbotsford real estate. They raised the money in the name of the flood victims. It never went to the flood victims. No flood victims lined up at Archway. Archway wasn't helping them. Archway, Rob Santiago, gave himself a bigger C.E.O. increase, and his employees have increased, and went and bought real estate. That is an open act of fraud. When you're pleading, so imagine, let me take you back, ladies and gentlemen. Remember the officer that died here in Abbotsford? Can you imagine starting a GoFundMe and a fundraiser for that officer and saying that it's going to that family? Then you keep that money. Imagine how many people would feel sorry for that sympathy. And you keep that money and you go buy yourself real estate. You help pay your mortgage and you buy more property and you profit off of it. And it's an act of organized crime, and it's an act of taking charity off vulnerable and things, and it's just disgusting, and it's got to go before the courts, and I'm going to put it there. But Archway Community Services had its municipal tax waived when it made millions and millions of dollars, and it wasn't paying its fair share. Under my mayorship, it's going to end immediately. We're going to go after Rob Santiago. We're going to go after these CEOs. So this is why, as bad as Justin Trudeau was, and people said, he was pretty smart not to give it to Henry Brown in Archway. How does this happen? The mayor, Abbotsford's mayor and council were tied to Rob Santiago and Archway. Darren Brown made it clear. Here is a company that's making millions and millions and millions of dollars, using the non-profit organization and status to grab it. Then his wife goes and gets on Community Taj, and it was an open act, knowing that they were going to go in there and commit fraud. We're going to go unseat all the other charities. It's worth hundreds of millions of dollars. Pierre Poilievre said it the clearest and the best, I believe, when he said these non-profit CEOs are making millions and millions of dollars using these non-profit organizations, paying themselves big checks. But let me make that clear. I want to discuss that to Pierre Poilievre. We have MLAs here, BC Conservatives, and we have people that are supposed to stand on guard and call this stuff out. As bad as David Eby's getting the heat for it, and these people that are hired in here, Archway pays these people all day long, apparently, huge money to write grants all day long and go after grants. That's all they do. As bad as David Eby's getting the heat, David Eby needs a break, and he needs a good break from it. I'm here for Abbotsford residents. I'm here to stop the fraud. I'm here to go in after what Henry was doing with Ron Funka Diverse. What he did with Marcus Dalvis, Dave Sadu, was Ren on the bottom of Dave Sadu's sponsor. The campaign sponsor and the financial agent was Marcus Dalvis on Ross and everybody. It's insider trading. Henry Brown set up this whole ring to steal the Abbotsford taxpayers. So let me make it clear, Abbotsford residents. Your taxes are going up. The fraud continues on Abbotsford. Archway Community Services gets its taxes waived. It makes millions of dollars not to contribute, so your taxes go down. Rob Santiago then gets his wife on Community Tax to make more millions of dollars under these non-profit, and he went and bought all these real estates. I have no problem as mayor walking into the court, into the Supreme Court, into any court, and showing that the act of Archway Community Service and other services were frauding. They weren't helping the needy and the vulnerable. And they set up these organizations to profit. Rob Santiago set it up to get an easy, good paycheck and everything else. So what am I going to do as mayor? The first thing I'm going to do is stop its nonprofit. The second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get involved with David Eby if he's still a premier and get him in here. I'm going to get investigations. This is why I said to Henry, when I become mayor, forensic audits are going to shut everything down. Archway Community Service and everything. So the Abbotsford taxpayers, your taxes are going up by mismanaged garbage people that are frauding. Ross Siemens knows I'm making a good run for this mayorship. And if you can see right now, I'll spell it out, but I'll do another video on it. He's emptying the city bank account quickly. He figures if he empties the city bank account on all the things him and Abbotsford and Dave Lowens can pass with Mark Warkentine, the city will be broke and I won't have any operating money. 12 million, on the 12.4 on that million on that home, community services money, and you could just see all the projects he's rushing, and we're going to see the jobs that he's been awarding to Unitech, to Miro, and everything. They're trying to empty the city bank accounts. I'm going to put a stop to that. Forensic audit will tie everything. It'll tie his annual reports. It'll tie his property, what he owns, and everything else. But this is another one of Archway Community Services. It's calling for the RCMP. Rob Santiago knew what he was doing when he went in to Blackjack Community Tash. He went in with his people, sat him in there, took over the board. Once his people took over the board, voted his wife on Community Tash as CEO. Then went in and said to Community Tash, which is his wife, which is a conflict of interest to all the other charities, and Ross waived their taxes and helped them rather than go after them because their portfolio is huge with the real estate they own. And under charity, they were stealing this. Then Community Tash puts an ad out to hire a cook so they could cook for the homeless for Archway. Archway will do the billing, Community Tash will get the jobs and everything else. Remember when Henry went to the Red Lion, when Pamela Alexis was the Minister of Ag and an MLA for David Eby? Henry went around 2 months in advance, rubbing his hand that we get the building and Archway's coming in there. We got it, we got it, we got it. Darren Brown leaked it to me, I put it on social media, and the Red Lion was in trouble. Today I stand here and I'm going to defend, which you may not like, I'm going to defend David Eby. David Eby is blindsided by this stuff that's going on, the insider trading and everything. Probably Henry's on the phone to him through Bob Rich and Mike Sear, David Eby, don't worry David Eby, don't worry David Eby, I got it all covered. It's fraud, openly fraud, and they were using charities. And they're worth millions and millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars. And then what they were doing is blocking the other charities, halting them, not allowing them to have something. So let me give you a thing. The Salvation Army doesn't have any equity. It owns its building, it doesn't have cash, it doesn't have liquid assets, it doesn't have nothing. As a nonprofit, it doesn't show profit. Look what took place. Look what took place on the Abbotsford Ag Fair. Look what took place as how they tried to bankrupt it and not allow it to have any funding and put it under as a non-profit so it can help the community. And here they go with Rob Santiago. I want to make it clear to you, Rob Santiago, listen very clearly. Henry Brown took his son in the city, which was a conflict of interest. He put his son in front of him to fast-track jobs for Ron Funka Diverse, the CEO, which is Henry's partner on a ranch. He took Abbotsford City Councils, the majority of them, to vote the decisions over the independents like Mo. He used the Abbotsford Police, and then he used the Abbotsford newspaper, and it was a ring of group. He loaded the police board, let me show you, with his brother, Irwin Braun. They pointed Sandy Blue to the police foundation with Irwin Braun. It's a democracy and it's a democratic process to put your name forward and run, and they were taking it all over to own these charities and these boards. And that is where Irwin Braun is. This is where Sandy Blue is. When Henry Brown got in his car, left the city of Abbotsford, and tried to end my life, it was over right there and then. I came forward on the world stage with everybody that's Henry's tied to, all the organizations that are profiting and stealing. Henry couldn't pay me. He doesn't got enough money to stop this. He doesn't got enough money at all to stop it. I went to the RCMP and said to the RCMP, they're targeting my life. They're using their friends. They're using the Abbotsford police. You watch Vicky Hopes block me. You watch Greg Toast block me. You watch Dave Sadu block me. You watched it all. What does Mr. Pelican Abbotsford, the homeowners want? We want to make sure Rob San Diego and these go under investigation by the best people there is, because it's open fraud. Them farmers were frauded. They used that charity to fraud them farmers to buy real estate. And there is no difference than you going out and saying, I'm starting a foundation for that dead cop that died here, and getting $200-300 million, and then going out, pointing yourself as the CEO, making big paychecks and everything else. But if I was David Eby, I'd be looking across from the BC Conservatives in the face, Bruce Banman and all of them from Abbotsford, and say this: you knew about this. You knew Archway was worth millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars, and it could have built the homeless shelters long time ago. And you guys been squeezing me using some media and Vicky Hopes of everything that the homeless are all scattered in Abbotsford. They're in front of the police building. It's a god-awful mess. And you had the money, you had the resources, and as mayor, all you were doing is helping Archway, and they were building a bigger portfolio, and you could have came to me, and I would have said right now their assets are seized for what they've done, and commenced the homeless shelters to be done. And again, I wonder today, why Archway's renting this building and who they're renting it off of. Remember, when Henry's son told me how many strip malls Henry owned, I wonder what the taxpayers got to go on the hook for now. I'm live here, ladies and gentlemen. Today, I'm after the BC Conservatives, and you need to start speaking up, Bruce Banman, Corky Neufeld, Rianne Gasper, because this stuff is taking advantage of the vulnerable, the weak, and these nonprofits. Rob San Diego and his wife are making millions of dollars, taking boards, voting people off, putting their family there. So think what happened here. I want to explain what happened. Rob San Diego saw that Henry did it with his son in front of the city, so he said, well, if Henry did it and made millions, set up his friends on real estate, he went one better. Instead of doing his family, his son or his daughter, he pointed his wife. I'm live, ladies and gentlemen. Archway Community Services here.